What happens when the official story stops matching the evidence on the ground? When the mission you were told was a clean rescue leaves behind wreckage, unanswered questions, and a silence that speaks louder than any press briefing? If you value clear thinking and want to understand what really happens behind closed doors, take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who appreciates the full picture before we begin. We need to talk about a night that changed the way many people view modern conflict. A night that started with a simple premise and quickly spiraled into a puzzle that refuses to fit together. An American fighter jet went down over Iranian territory. 2 crew members ejected into the dark. One was pulled back quickly. The other remained on the ground, surrounded by hostile forces miles from friendly lines. What followed was a massive military response. Helicopters cut through the night sky. Transport planes circled above. Special operators moved into the shadows. The official line was clear. This was a rescue. Nothing more, nothing less. The men were saved. The mission succeeded. The story was wrapped in flags and delivered with confidence. But then the other side started speaking, and their version did not match the one coming from Washington. They said the landing zone was wrong, not just slightly off, completely misplaced. The coordinates used by the incoming forces did not point toward the mountains where the pilot was supposed to be hiding. Instead, they pointed toward a different kind of target, a place where sensitive materials are kept, materials that carry a weight far beyond their physical mass, enriched uranium. Hundreds of kilograms of it, enough to shift the balance of power in a region that has spent decades watching its borders shift. The claim was bold. It was direct. It suggested that the search for a missing airman was not the real objective at all. It was a cover, a carefully timed distraction for a different kind of mission, a mission that never made it past the first hour. Think about what that means for a moment. If the story we were given is accurate, then everything lines up. The planning, the execution, the extraction, the return home. It fits the pattern of a high-stakes rescue that worked against the odds. But if the other version holds even a fraction of truth, then the entire operation takes on a completely different shape. It becomes a gamble that cost more than money. It becomes a story about risk, miscalculation, and the heavy price of operating in the dark. And right now, the people who follow these events closely are trying to separate what was real from what was staged. They are looking at the facts. They are weighing the claims. They are asking the quiet questions that rarely make it to the evening news. Let us start with what both sides actually agree on. Because even in a conflict built on opposing narratives, there are anchor points. An aircraft was shot down. That is not in dispute. The location of the crash is known. The immediate aftermath triggered a rapid response. Helicopters were dispatched. Ground teams were deployed. The operation moved fast, as these missions always do, when time is running out. What happened next is where the paths split. One side says the team reached the target, secured the missing airman, and brought him back safely. They describe a coordinated effort that overcame heavy resistance and completed the objective. The other side says the incoming force never reached the intended location. They say the aircraft were tracked from the moment they crossed the border. They say the landing zone was chosen for a reason that had nothing to do with a stranded pilot. They say the area was selected because of what was stored nearby. Not people, not equipment. Material that has been at the center of international negotiations, sanctions, and threats for years. The numbers tell a story of their own. 12 American service members lost their lives during the operation. 300 more were injured. These are not estimates. These are confirmed figures released by official channels. Behind each number is a name. Behind each name is a family that will never be the same. Behind each injury is a long road of recovery, of physical therapy, of quiet. Nights spent processing what happened in a split second. This is the part of the story that rarely gets the spotlight it deserves. We focus on strategy, on geopolitics, on who said what and when. But the real weight of any operation is measured in human terms. It is measured in empty chairs at dinner tables. It is measured in medals that arrive in heavy envelopes. It is measured in the silence that follows a knock on the door. Now add the claim that the landing zone was miles away from the reported crash site. If true, it raises immediate questions about navigation, intelligence, and intent. Military operations do not happen by accident. Coordinates are checked multiple times. Routes are planned with precision. Weather? When a force lands in an area that does not match the stated objective, it is either a catastrophic failure of intelligence or a deliberate choice. Both possibilities are difficult to accept. Both carry heavy implications. If it was a mistake, it suggests a breakdown in the systems designed to intentional. It suggests the stated mission was never the real mission at all. This is where the uranium angle enters the frame. Iran has openly stated that the United States has been pushing for access to their nuclear stockpiles. They say this has been a condition in recent discussions. They say force was discussed as a last resort. When you combine that statement with the location of the operation, the claim starts to gain traction among observers who track these developments closely. It is not proof, it is a pattern. And patterns matter. They help us see the shape of events before all the details are confirmed. They help us ask the right questions before the official line solidifies into permanent record. The photographs released by Iranian sources add another layer to the puzzle. They show the wreckage of a large transport aircraft. The shape is unmistakable. The damage is consistent with heavy anti-aircraft fire. And in the debris, there's a detail that cannot be ignored. A skull. It is not hidden. It is not blurred. It is visible. It sits in the open, surrounded by twisted metal and scattered equipment. Independent analysts have begun examining the images. So far, no credible source has proven them to be fabricated. If the photos are real, they confirm at least one aircraft went down hard. They confirm that at least one service member did not return. They confirm that the operation was not as clean as the initial reports suggested. Silence speaks volumes when it comes from official channels. The Pentagon has not released footage of the extraction. They have not allowed journalists to speak with the rescued airmen. They have not provided visual confirmation of the mission's success. The explanation is always the same. Operational security, protection of personnel, the need to keep certain details classified. These are valid concerns in theory, but in practice, they create a vacuum. And nature abhors a vacuum. When information is withheld, speculation fills the space. When evidence is not shown, doubt takes root. When families are left waiting for answers, frustration builds. This is not about disrespecting the military. It is about understanding how transparency shapes public trust. It is about recognizing that when the stakes are this high, people deserve to see what they are told actually happened. Remember the statements made just weeks before the operation. Claims that enemy defenses were broken. Assertions that the skies were completely controlled. Declarations that resistance would be minimal. These were the words used to set the stage. They were meant to reassure the public. They were meant to project strength. Yet the events that followed painted a very different picture. Multiple aircraft were reportedly hit. Heavy resistance was encountered. Casualties mounted. The gap between expectation and reality is where trust begins to fracture. It is where people start to look closer at the details. It is where they start to connect dots that were never meant to be connected. If you have followed military history for any length of time, you know how these stories usually unfold. The initial reports are always optimistic. The language is carefully chosen. The focus is on success, on bravery, on the mission accomplished. The complications are mentioned later, if at all. The human cost is often reduced to a line in a briefing. The full picture emerges, slowly, sometimes years. Later, when documents are declassified and veterans finally speak openly. This is not pattern of modern conflict, repeated across decades, across theaters, across administrations. The lesson is not to distrust everything. The lesson is to wait for the full picture. The lesson is to hold the official narrative lightly until it is backed by verifiable facts. Let us look at the logistics for a moment. Moving a large force into hostile territory is not a simple task. It requires fuel, coordination, communication, and backup. It requires clear objectives and reliable intelligence. It requires the ability to adapt when things go wrong. When the primary goal is to retrieve a single person, the operation is designed for speed and precision. When the goal shifts to securing a facility or retrieving materials, the operation changes completely. It requires different equipment. It requires more time on the ground. It requires heavier protection. It requires a different kind of planning. The difference between these two types of missions is not subtle. It is structural. It shows up in the aircraft chosen. It shows up in the routes taken. It shows up in the duration of the operation. And it shows up in the aftermath. The claim that the landing zone was near uranium-storage sites is not just a geographical detail. It is a tactical one. It suggests a shift in priority. It suggests that the forces on the ground were not looking for a person. They were looking for something else, something that cannot walk away, something that requires secure transport, something that carries political weight far beyond the battlefield. If this is true, it changes the entire context of the mission. It transforms a rescue into an extraction. It transforms a humanitarian effort into a strategic strike. It transforms a story about saving a life into a story about securing an asset. And it explains why the official narrative has remained so tightly controlled. The families of the fallen are living with the reality of this operation every single day. They are not waiting for political spin. They are not analyzing press releases. They are dealing with grief. They are dealing with uncertainty. They are dealing with the quiet moments when they wonder what really happened in those final hours. They deserve clarity. They deserve honesty. They deserve to know why their loved ones were sent into harm's way and what the actual objective was. When the story is unclear, the pain is heavier. When the facts are hidden, the healing is delayed. This is not just about military strategy. It is about basic human dignity. It is about respecting the people who pay the highest price for decisions made in distant rooms. The photographs of the wreckage will not fade from public memory. They are already part of the record. They are already being studied. They are already raising questions that cannot be answered with a simple press statement. The skull in the debris is not just a tragic detail. It is a symbol of the gap between what is said and what is shown. It represents the human cost of operations that are planned in secrecy and executed in darkness. It reminds us that behind every mission number, there is a person who will not come home. It reminds us that war is not a game of strategy. It is a reality of loss, of sacrifice, of irreversible consequences. The uranium claim adds a geopolitical dimension that cannot be ignored. It touches on international law, on nuclear agreements, on the balance of power in a volatile region. It raises questions about sovereignty, about intervention, about the limits of military force. It forces us to ask what happens when the line between defense and offense becomes blurred. It forces us to ask what happens when the justification for an operation is questioned by the very people it was meant to protect. It forces us to ask what happens when the truth is treated as a commodity rather than a foundation. If you are still watching, you understand that this is not about picking sides. It is about demanding clarity. It is about recognizing that in modern conflict, information is as important as ammunition. It is about understanding that when narratives clash, the people who suffer most are the ones who do not control the story. It is about seeing the bigger picture without losing sight of the human element. It is about asking the hard questions before the official version becomes permanent history. If you believe in clear thinking and want to support a channel that values depth over noise, take a moment to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this with someone who appreciates honest analysis. Your support keeps this kind of content alive and independent. Let us step back and look at the timeline. Events like this do not happen in isolation. They are the result of years of tension, of failed negotiations, of escalating rhetoric, of military posturing. They are the product of decisions made long before the first aircraft crossed the border. They are the outcome of a system that prioritizes speed over verification, that values control over transparency, that measures success in objectives met rather than truths revealed. When you understand this context, the current situation stops looking like a sudden crisis and starts looking like a predictable outcome. It stops looking like an anomaly and starts looking like a pattern. And patterns are easier to understand when you stop accepting the first explanation you are given. The silence from official sources is not accidental. It is calculated. It is designed to manage perception, to control the narrative, to prevent panic, to maintain public confidence. These are standard practices in crisis communication, but they only work when the underlying facts align with the stated version. When the facts do not match, the silence becomes a liability. It breeds suspicion. It fuels speculation. It erodes trust. And trust is the most fragile element in any democratic society. Once it is broken, it is incredibly difficult to rebuild. It requires consistency. It requires honesty. It requires a willingness to admit when things do not go as planned. It requires a commitment to the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable. The location discrepancy is the most concrete point of contention. If the rescue team landed miles from the reported crash site, it is either a massive intelligence failure or a deliberate redirection. Both scenarios have serious consequences. A failure suggests a breakdown in the systems designed to prevent exactly this kind of error. It suggests that the people on the ground were operating on flawed information. It suggests that the risk was higher than calculated. It suggests that the cost was avoidable. A deliberate redirection suggests a different objective. Entirely. It suggests that the stated mission was a cover for a larger goal. It suggests that the forces on the ground were not there to save a life. They were there to secure something else, something that required secrecy, something that required speed, something that required precision. The cost of the operation is already documented. 12 lives lost, 300 injured, aircraft destroyed, equipment abandoned. These are not minor losses. They are significant. They represent a substantial investment of resources, training, and human capital. They represent a heavy price for a mission that, according to one side, was fully successful. If the mission was truly successful, why the lack of visual confirmation? If the mission was truly successful, why the silence? These are not rhetorical questions. They are logical inquiries. They are the kind of questions that arise naturally when the facts do not fully align with the narrative. The photographs will continue to circulate. They will continue to be analyzed. They will continue to raise doubts. This is how information spreads in the modern era. It does not wait for official approval. It does not follow traditional gatekeepers. It moves quickly, it reaches globally, it challenges authority. This is not a flaw, it is a feature of a connected world. It means that people no longer have to rely on a single source for their understanding of events. It means that they can compare, they can question, they can form their own conclusions. It means that the monopoly on information is over. And that is a good thing, even when it makes things more complicated. The uranium claim is not just about materials, It is about leverage. It is about power. It is about control. It is about the ability to shape outcomes in a region that has been shaped by external forces for decades. It is about the difference between what is said publicly and what is done privately. It is about the gap between diplomatic language and military action. It is about the reality that in high-stakes environments, words are often used as shields, while actions tell the real story. Understanding this gap is the key to understanding what really happened on that night. If you have stayed with this analysis, you already know that the truth is rarely found in the first headline. It is found in the details. It is found in the inconsistencies. It is found in the questions that are never asked. It is found in the silence that follows a statement. It is found in the photographs that are released. It is found in the numbers that are confirmed. It is found in the patterns that repeat across time. It is found in the willingness to look foundation. If you value independent thinking and want to see more deep dives like this, make sure you are subscribed. Leave your thoughts in the comments and share this with a friend who appreciates careful analysis. Your engagement helps shape the direction of this channel and ensures we keep asking the right questions. Let us talk about the human element one more time, because no matter how we frame the strategy, no matter how we analyze the geopolitics, no matter how we weigh the evidence, the reality is simple. Real people were sent into harm's way. Real people made decisions that carried life and death consequences. Real people are living with the aftermath. They are not abstract figures in a briefing. They are mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, friends. They are the people who wake up every day and try to move forward while carrying the weight of what happened. They deserve respect. They deserve honesty. They deserve a clear account of why they were there and what the actual mission was. Anything less is a disservice to their sacrifice. The gap between the official story and the alternative claim is not just a difference in wording. It is a difference in reality. It is a difference in what people believe actually occurred. It is a difference in how history will remember this event. It is a difference in how future operations will be planned. It is a difference in how the public will trust the institutions that lead them. This is not a minor detail. This is a fundamental issue. It touches on accountability, on transparency, on the relationship between the government and the governed. It touches on the very foundation of how we understand conflict, how we evaluate success, how we measure cost. The photographs of the wreckage are not just evidence. They are a reminder. They are a reminder that war is not clean. They are a reminder that operations are not always successful. They are a reminder that people are lost. They are a reminder that stories are shaped. They are a reminder that truth is often delayed. They are a reminder that silence is not neutral. They are a reminder that questions are necessary. They are a reminder that the public deserves answers. They are a reminder that history will judge this moment by the facts, not the spin. The uranium claim will be debated. It will be analyzed. It will be either confirmed or dismissed. But the process of examination is what matters. It is what keeps us engaged. It is what keeps us thinking. It is what keeps us from accepting the first version we are given. It is what keeps us asking why, how, when, and what if. It is what keeps us grounded in reality instead of drifting into narrative. It is what keeps us connected to the truth instead of settling for convenience. The cost of the operation is already paid. The lives are already lost. The injuries are already sustained. The wreckage is already scattered. The photographs are already public. The claims are already made. The silence is already noted. The questions are already asked. What happens next is up to us. We can accept the official version without scrutiny. We can dismiss the alternative without examination. Or we can do what responsible citizens should always do. We can look at the evidence. We can weigh the facts. We can compare the claims. We can ask the hard questions. We can demand clarity. We can hold the line on truth. We can remember the human cost. We can honor the fallen by seeking the full story. This is not about taking sides. It is about seeking clarity. It is about recognizing that in modern conflict, the first story is rarely the final story. It is about understanding that transparency is not a weakness. It is about acknowledging that the public has a right to know what is done in their name. It is about remembering that every operation carries a cost that is measured in human terms. It is about staying curious, staying critical, staying grounded. It is about refusing to let the narrative harden before the facts are clear. It is about keeping the questions alive until the answers arrive. The night the aircraft went down was not just a military event. It was a test of truth. It was a test of transparency. It was a test of accountability. It was a test of public trust. It was a test of how we process information in a world where stories compete for attention. It was a test of our willingness to look deeper, to think longer, to question harder, to demand more. The results of that test are still unfolding. The evidence is still being examined. The claims are still being weighed. The silence is still being noted. The questions are still being asked. And the people who follow these events closely know that the answer will not come from a single statement. It will come from the accumulation of facts, from the weight of evidence, from the clarity that emerges when the noise fades. The The families are waiting. The veterans are watching. The public is asking. The record is being written. The photographs will not disappear. The numbers will not change. The claims will not vanish. The silence will not fill itself. The truth will not hide forever. It will surface. It will emerge. It will be seen. It will be heard. It will be remembered. And when it does, we will know exactly what happened on that night. We will know why the landing zone was where it was. We will know what the real objective was. We will know what the cost actually was. We will know who was telling the truth. And we will know what it means for the future of how we handle these moments going forward. Until then, keep looking. Keep questioning. Keep thinking. Keep demanding clarity. Keep honoring the human cost. Keep refusing to accept the surface when the depth is waiting. Keep remembering that the truth does not rush. It arrives when it is ready. And when it does, it will change everything. Thank you for watching. Stay sharp, stay curious, and never stop asking what really happened.